Hi, my name is Jim Bala. I'm the SnowDogg Tech here at Buyers Products. Today's how-to video is on a F250 to 550 2020 Plus. We're going to be installing the light adapter, which is part number 1607-1200A. And those are for halogen lights on these trucks. If you have the LED lights, it'll be part number 1607-1300A. Those are for LEDs, and it's almost the exact same installation. Also, we're on location today, so you might hear a little wind, some trucks in the background, but we're lucky we have a great distributor letting us borrow the truck to do this video. So before we get started, I got some tools on the tailgate that is going to make life a little bit easier installing the harness on the truck. Also, if you like this video as much as I do, please smash the like button and subscribe button and become part of that SnowDogg family. Now let's go to the tailgate and look at the tools. So some of the tools that you're going to need will be, to start with, of course, will be our light harness, part number 1616-0102. Then the other part will be, that goes from the light relay box out to the grill, will be part number 1616-0104. And of course, we have our drill gun, and the sockets we'll need will be our 8mm, 10mm, and 13mm. Screwdriver, wire cutters, pair of pliers. We need some ties, of course. And then, of course, our light adapter we'll be installing today will be part number 1607-1200A. So before we dig into the electrical part of this, I pulled the directions and I'm just going overview. So first thing we want to do is, check all light functions. Make sure you check all light functions on the truck before you start anything, because if the truck's not working, that means our lights on the plow are not going to be working correctly. So it also says what we want to do here is look for the inline connection. Now the inline connection is on the passenger side fender wall, back behind all this stuff here. So what we have to do is take out the air cleaner housing or air filter housing and take a bracket off and get in there and disconnect that and get some harnesses in. The first thing we want to do though is disconnect the negative terminal on the battery. That takes a 10mm socket. So I'm going to disconnect that and make sure it's safely away from the ground terminal. Get that aside there. All right. Next thing is we want to take the air cleaner housing off. So to do that, let's put the directions over here for now. Hopefully it doesn't blow away. And then what we want to do is I'm going to unclip the housing, loosen it up a little bit. Now what you got to do is there's a little clip here, up here over the engine. You want to unclip that. And you want to take it off that. And then you want to lift this up just like that. So there's part of the housing, the top part of the housing. I'll put that in a safe place. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is take the air filter out. Pretty large one. I hate to want to buy one of those. So, and then the next thing is the housing. Now I'm looking at it. It's pretty big, but it's just kind of suctioned in there with some rubber grommets. Oh, but first what we have to do is get the screwdriver and take off this one little tab here. Actually, I might be able to get it with my finger. Yep, looks like I could. So this little tab here that holds part of that in there. Let's put that in my pocket for now. What I'm going to do is just don't pull on that. Got to get a good grip to get this out. So no tools are needed to take that out. Just you got to get a right grip. And you see where that gets suction. That's suction, but it's kind of pointy. That goes into rubber grommet. That's what it took. And there's two rubber grommets on the side. So it does take a little bit of strength to pull that apart. All right, so we're down in here now. Next thing we're gonna do is there's a bracket on the sidewall here. A black black bracket, and that takes a 13 millimeter socket. What I'm going to do is get my 13 millimeter socket, and we're going to take this bracket off. So there's 2 bolts to it. One. The other one's over here. Of course, I want to put this bracket aside. And then here is the harness that we've been looking for. But make sure it's this one, it's always behind that bracket. So what I'm gonna do is just pull it apart here. Sometimes it's a little too curled. There you go. So now I took it apart. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab the harness, the 1607 1200A, and we're gonna install it into each side of this connection. So here we have the harness. Now there's 2 ends, of course, to the harness. The one end will have a gray and a red with a white stripe wire. That's gonna go across the truck to the other side where we're gonna put the light harness with the relays in it. But on this end here that goes into the fender wall is gonna have this relay pack, which has the yellow on it. Okay, and then when we install this, we want this to be upright, so the water flows over it. And then these 2 connections here will go into the fender. So we'll put these in, we'll tie this up in a safe place, and then we're gonna route the other end along the radiator to the other side. So we're gonna plug the harness into the truck harness, lock it with this red tab. Then the other piece of the harness we're gonna put on the other side. Lock it in, and we're gonna kind of tuck it away. So we got to put that bracket on. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the relay box and we'll tie it up behind the light. So after we made that connection, now what we're going to do is we got to run the harness across the radiator, so we got to take this cover off here. So what I usually do is just have this little screwdriver and kind of just pry it up, and they pop off. There's about 15 of them, so just take your time and so you don't bust them. You pry the one up and then bring the second one up with it, right below it. There's a special tool you can use for these, but the screwdriver works just fine. All right, so I got all those little plugs off. I'm just gonna take the shroud off and put it aside. Then what I want to do is what am I looking at, or where am I looking at to route this harness? So we want to feed it up. We got to make sure it doesn't interfere with anything either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it down and then back up, and I'm going to run it along this radiator kind of protector here, and then run it to the other side. So our next step, after we ran the harness to the other side, the driver's side, the reason we ran it to the driver's side is this is where we brought our power into the cab. And this is where we're going to pick up power for our relay box and our other relays from the forward harness. So what we have here is our truck side light harness. It's part number 16160102. This has the 6 relays in it. So I say there's a relay box. That's what I call a relay box, because it has 6 relays. And then cap, make sure it's locked on. We want to make sure when we mount this or secure it somewhere, it's upright like this. Some people put it aside, but we want the water to flow away from it. So try to keep it upright. Also coming out of the box is we have 2 purple wires. So when we connect those to the other harness, if the turn signals are backwards, we just got to switch the wires up by the relay box. The other wire is orange. That's our power wire. We're going to connect that to the red with the white stripe wire coming from the control harness. Then, of course, our black wire. It has an eyelet on it. We're going to take that to ground. So let's locate this. Sorry. And then we have our A and B connection. That's going to go to the forward harness. We've got A here. Sorry, that's B. And the A. So we'll just connect that. Again, same thing. If it's opposite, we just switch it at the connection. So So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna run this under here to a secure location where I think I'm gonna mount it to, which I think is gonna be right there. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find my ground. And we're kind of lucky enough where we have a fender ground right here, so we're gonna connect it to this. All right, that's the ground. Now what we want to do is find our orange wire and connect that to the power coming from the control harness. So here's the red and white wire from the control harness. Okay, that's going to bring us to 12 volt power. So what we want to do is we have to connect the orange wire coming from the relay box to this. And then we also want to connect the red and white wire coming from the forward relay to this too. So we have to power up the truck side light harness, and also we have to power up the forward light adapter. So we're going to put all these three together. So what I did was, here's our main power. What I did is I put a little jumper on here so I could put two power on here. So what I did was I could plug this into here, and then the orange wire I'm going to plug into this end. Now in the directions it just said, you know, add a little clip on here, and then you plug it in and clip. But sometimes, you know, you sometimes have to change things around a little bit to make it work a little bit more efficiently. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of get all these wires together and tie them up. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to have to get this gray wire to ground. So our next step is we're going to put in our truck side light harness, but this is the part that goes from the relay box out to the grill. So we have the two purple wires, and what I did here is I found the ground wire into this, on this harness, and I put this little bullet connector on here on the black wire. On Gen 2s, it has to be the black wire that's on this part number, which is 16160-104. So it has to go to this wire on this harness. I can't emphasize that enough. Do not put it on the harness that comes out of the relay box. It has to be on this harness, the 104. So what we're going to do is we're going to route this through the grill and up into the engine compartment and connect to the relay box. All right, so what I'm going to do is I fed that harness up through the grill up toward the relay box. Now what I'm going to do is take the gray wire from the forward light adapter, and I'm going to plug it into this bullet connector. Again, remember, it's on the black wire on the harness that is 16160-104. So once that's plugged in there, okay, then I'm going to tie up the wires. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it into the relay box harness. Okay, so I'm going to plug that in the relay harness. Put this down. Now I have two purple wires here I'm going to plug in. And again, these are our turn signals. Okay. Then the next step is to take the A and B harness and plug it into the harness that we brought over from the passenger side, which is the Ford light harness, the 1200A. So I'm going to plug B in. I'm just going to shove it down here for now, but I'm going to clean all that up in a little bit. And then from the relay harness, there's another harness here somewhere. The A harness is right there. And I plug that in there. So that's all the connections. There's nothing that's not connected. So before we tuck everything away, tape things up, tie things up, let's check the operation of the lights. So first thing I have to do is put that ground wire back on, and then we'll check out the lights. So the first thing we'll do is probably check the parking lights. The next thing to do, we're going to check the low beam, and then the high beam, and then with turn signal. All right, so it looks like they all work. So next thing you know, we're going to start tucking these wires away and start putting the air cleaner components back on. All right, so I got all the wires tied up, you know, so they're not floating around in the wind or anything like that. Everything's tied up. So we're start putting some stuff back together. So the first thing I'm gonna do is put the radiator shroud back on. And I just gotta make sure it sits nice and flat. Get that on, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put all those little plugs back in, little tabs. And the next thing is we've got to put this bracket back on. Of course, I'm a little short, so I need a little ladder. So I got the bracket here, and then just gonna line it up. Start the one. Get the other one up here. Start that, then I'm going to tighten it up with a 13 millimeter socket. Gotta make sure you're not pinching any wires. So the bracket's back on. And then next thing you know, we're going to put in the housing for the air cleaner. All right, so we got the radiator shroud on. Now it's housing time, which is really my favorite. But what we do is we got to shove it down in here. Try not to catch any wires. Of course, nothing's ever the simplest. Just got to keep avoiding some wires. And what we want to do is get it in there and then angle it back. Now again, we had that bracket we put on, so there's two rubber grommets that are on the box. We got to try to get it in those grommets. And there we go. You just got to push down so everything pops in. Looks good there. Looks pretty solid. Then I got my last little tab. I'm going to put in this one here. Not really sure the name of these, but we'll call them tabs, I guess, or little connectors there. All right, so housing's in. Next thing, filter time. Same thing, make sure it sits in. Nice and flush. And then the cover. And what I did is I put that clip on here. I'm gonna take it off. Put it there, then I gotta watch out for the wires. Make sure all the tabs are up. I'm gonna get it on there first. And then you want to slide it down on this here. Like I said, all engines kind of, there we go. Once you get it on, you put the clips on. And the final thing, I'm gonna put this clip on. So it goes in there, make sure it kind of settles in. We already put the ground on. I'm checking for tools. So we'll shut the hood on a tool like this one, and then that's about it. So we completed this. Again, read the directions. If there's a problem, let us know. Or any questions, give us a call. And that was the installation for the 1607 1200A. It's the same installation for the 1607 1300A, which is for LED lights, and this was a halogen. So 1200 halogen, 1300 LED. If you like this video, smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, go buy a dog, and go chase a storm.